What is going on, everybody? How y'all doing? So, it's Sunday. I don't normally shoot videos on Sundays, but tomorrow, Monday, I have to go get an emergency root canal. I've never had cavities. I've never had any decay, nothing. Now, I had braces when I was a kid, but I've never had anything like that. And all of a sudden, I have to have an emergency root canal tomorrow. So it's going to put a little bit of a cramp into my Monday. So we're going to do something fun today. The comments section is always an entertaining place to be. Let me grab my coffee. Hang on. And I have always wanted to have a segment where we took some of the more controversial comments as well as some of the legitimate questions and put them into a little bit of a Q&A thing here and featured some of these. Now, we know there's really no dumb questions, but there are better and worse ways to ask them. And so we're going to do this in a way to encourage folks to be upstanding, positive contributors to society in the way they ask their questions. So this is kind of fun for me because I think there's a lot of people that don't like it when I feature certain questions and answers and stuff on Facebook, but I kind of don't care, and here's why. If you ask a question, I'm assuming that you want to know the answer. If you are less than desirable human being in the comments, you did that in public, so you could learn to be nicer. So, you know what? Let's go through some of these. These are kind of fun. And we're going to do this. This is going to be volume 1. Okay, we did a video on 500K pots versus 250K pots. This is an interesting one. Joe Micah, I guess that's how you say it, says, I just saw this video. Excellent content, brother. I've been told by reputable guitar techs that there is no difference between the signal path of a 250K pot setup versus a 500K or 1 meg setup when the pots are wide open. Is this correct? Does the difference surface only when the pots are somewhere between the extremes of the sweep? That is a great question. No, it actually is. It affects it when the volume or when the tone is on 10 and when the volume is on 10 as well, because that starting resistance of that pot has already not only filtered high-end frequencies, but also shifted the entire center frequency, I guess you would say, of that LC circuit. Remember, this is a passive circuit that is only subtracting sounds. And so anytime you make an addition or a subtraction from that circuit resistance-wise, it's going to push that back and forth. That's why you could hear not only a crispness of high-end go away when you go from a 500K pot to a 250K pot, but also you hear a mid-range shift because it kind of pushes the whole thing. So anytime you make a little change like that, boom, there you go. That's a really good question. Great one to start off with. 99 Big Jim says, okay, we did a video on the when you raise and lower the tailpiece on a Les Paul, does that affect sustain and etc.? And he brings up an interesting point. If the angle is weak on the roller or the saddle and it's hitting the back of the bridge, you could affect intonation. So remember that intonation is actually in the sense of setting it for the scale length of the guitar, it's basically a mathematical thing, right? It's that the 12th fret is in the very center between the saddle and the nut. So if the string's hitting the back of the bridge, it's not going to affect intonation unless there's one. He could be right here in the situation where it's hitting it so bad that it's actually lifting up on the string and it's causing it to contact the saddle weirdly. On a Gibson, that's less likely to happen because it's such a sharp edge. It could happen on something that has a rounder saddle where it's catching it in a different spot and actually changing the length of the string. I don't totally see this happening. If the angle is weak on the roller or saddle, so the back of it like this, then yeah, you could really lift up as you play, the string could like microscopically lift up and down because you don't have enough break angle over the back, and that could cause intonation problems as well. Which is funny because so many people want to top wrap their Les Pauls, and that introduces that more than just raising up the tailpiece. So I'm a big proponent of not top wrapping, slamming the tailpiece to the body, and then raising it up enough to clear the back of the saddles. You're not going to lose sustain, and then the guitar will stay in tune properly. Because even if you have to raise it up just a little bit to get it off the back of the bridge, which you don't always have to do, it just kind of depends on the guitar, then that'll fix that problem, and you won't have any issues. Okay, this is kind of a loaded one, and this is a little heavy. Christopher Orth, I appreciate. So we did this video on $400 guitar. The $400 guitar is not really possible in 2023. We talked about a bunch of little things. We got a little edgy on the economic talk because people don't really have a strong grasp of reality, to tell you the truth, about where their parts come from and how much they cost and etc. And so a lot of people really challenged me on this, but I think it came from a lack of education on where stuff comes from and how much stuff costs. So this is an interesting conversation, and let's entertain this thought. This is a long one. I appreciate that you value labor. I do. But honestly, it's pretty ignorant of you to make a value judgment that people don't care if they buy a more affordable product. You and I and many other people can afford to buy whatever we want to. I cannot, actually. But the vast majority of Americans cannot, like me. They probably do want a $3,000 guitar, but they have nowhere near amount of budget to be able to spend. And the proof of that is how many products are pushed into that price range and why you have the topic to talk about at all today. So it's really awesome that you are pointing out to people that the realities of the market, pointing out to people the realities of the market, that you yourself need to grow and understand constantly. I always do. Self-improvement is a thing. That a lot of people simply don't have a choice, and if they are not, and they are not being crappy. So you seriously shouldn't say shitty things and talk down to them. They deserve respect too. Okay, so this is a great comment because, and you might think I'll be hitting this negatively, but I'm not. Christopher, thank you for sharing this. You might be new to the channel. You might know that you may not be. In many videos, in fact, every video that we talk about this, we make a very, very firm point to say, buy whatever guitar you can afford. Sometimes people can't afford. All they can afford is a Mitchell from Guitar Center. In fact, that came up in a live stream the other day. Somebody said, do you like Mitchell guitars? And I said, if you need to buy a Mitchell guitar because you have to have a guitar, I want you to have a guitar. Buy the best guitar you can afford. A lot of this conversation and this discussing value is not for those people. A lot of these conversations are based on the fact that somebody will own 15 Harley Bentons instead of selling it and all of them and selling and buying one good guitar because they're trying to find value in cheap guitars. I have no problem encouraging someone to buy the best guitar that they can afford. And if that's a $200 guitar, so be it. I want you to play more than anything. And you have to remember too, that we make our entire living, not off of YouTube, but off of selling upgrade parts for people with cheap guitars. So I really value Squiers and Epiphones and all these lower priced instruments. Now, the only thing is that I really encourage people to look at the reputation and the ethics of the company where they buy it from. Obviously, this is, and people say that I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth here as I use an Apple Watch or whatever. We have choices, right? And you have to choose battles in life, right? So a lot of times I will choose because it is a elective, purchase to do my best to find the right thing. And for me, that is to stay, for me personally, this is just a personal opinion, doesn't have anything to do with you. This is not a judgment on you, I just share what I do, that I like to understand where my stuff is coming from and I like to make those purchases accordingly. I believe that there are some purchases that are better and worse to make ethically, and I do what I can. Do I know everything, and do I always make the right decision, and do I always recommend the right thing because I don't know everything? No, Obviously, we make mistakes in that, but I think it's important to at least understand all of these things and try to have conversations about them. So, yeah, buy the best guitar you can afford. If that's a $200 Mitchell from Guitar Center, then do it. But understand, once you start making elective purchases that are a choice, that it's a choice. And you can be a better or worse person at some point. That's really it. So yeah, we're not judging anybody. We know that all this stuff is a choice. And for some people, it's not. But when it becomes a choice, make a good one. On this channel, we like to do a lot of demos about lower priced amps, actually, and guitars, which is funny because of the last question. But this one's interesting. Armando Singer says, excellent demo. We did a video on, it was one of those Boss, not the Boss Katana, the other one. Anyway, one of these, the newer modeling amps. Have you had a chance to play with a Quilter amp? It seems like the closest competitor. How do you compare? We need to do a video about the different kinds of amps. Maybe we should do that video. Because a Quilter and like a Boss Katana, for example, any of the Boss stuff, the Roland stuff, is different than a Quilter because the power supplies are different. How the power is made is different. The Quilter is not a modeling amp either. It doesn't have a digital component to it. It is 100% analog, complete, total, it's a solid state amp, but it's not the solid state that you think of from the 80s because the power supply is so different. I actually got a chance to talk to him quite a bit once at a NAMM show, and he's a really cool dude. Just like a crazy old like scientist of a man. He's really, really cool dude. And I got to, actually, we were in a booth at NAMM next to Quilter. And so I actually got to use a Quilter all weekend. And it's an incredible amp, but it's in a class of its own. So I think what we need to do is we need to do a video that talks about what a modeling amp is, what a Class AB push-pull solid state like the Boss, what the Class D power supply like in a Kemper or a Quilter is. But those are not the same because one's a modeler and one's not. Like, we should do a video on that to kind of like line, because everybody thinks that every new amp is a modeling amp, and it's not. So that's an interesting question that leads me to a really good video idea. This is another reason why I do like to spend some time in the comments hanging out with you. Okay, we discussed a Jim Lill video when he did like the strings between the two tables with the engines on them, which was a really fun video to talk about. It was like it wasn't necessarily a reaction video, but it kind of was. I really love the work that he does. User blah 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 says, I heard a massive difference, but I guess almost nobody cares such difference as I do. And all my time used to adjust these massive differences are simply a waste of time. Well, chances are that you are better at this than any of the rest of us. That's probably it. Grammar, not so much. Spelling, not so much. But you probably have a way better ear than any of the rest of us. The thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands of people that watch that video, I would imagine that you're better than all of us. That's what I'm thinking. Intonation video from last week. This also garnered a bunch of geniuses. Let's see. Bearpole8294 says, stupid video. Nobody intonates the harmonic because it's just a higher octave of the open string. You just tune that with the headstock tuners, yes. You tune the string and match the fretted 12th fret with a 12th fret harmonic because they're supposed to be the same and not an octave apart. Okay, so you are right in everything you said except A, that it's a stupid video, and B, that nobody intonates on the harmonic. I don't know if you noticed like the other bajillion comments on many videos that we've done about intonation and all over the internet where people think that you should intonate with the 12th fret harmonic. That is a very widely believed thing, and there's a reason why we brought that up as a subject in this video. So, you could think the video is stupid, but I thought it was pretty fun to make. On our $400 guitar video, let's see, Bearpole, same guy, I think. Jackson JS12, $100. Goto NS 150, $150. EMGs, $150. Those are pickups, not a guitar. So, question mark, not watching your video because you seem really lame. I'm not lame. I do have a spinal injury that does make me walk like I'm lame. So that is a thing. I'm in constant pain, not just the tooth. So there is that. I don't know what any of this has to do with anything. And as far as you not watching my video, you commented on another one. So yet here you are. This does happen a lot too. People really don't like what we do, and then they keep watching and commenting, which I think is really funny. Nice to have you, Bear Pole 8294. This is an excellent technical question. Scott Baker. I'm not going to read the numbers. I think YouTube did that thing. Scott Baker. My tuner always jumps around a whole lot. It's typically sharp at first, and then it descends in tone and holds for a brief moment, and then it begins declining more rapidly. This process makes it difficult for me to tune my guitar, as I have to wait for the sweet spot, usually 3 or 4 seconds, to check tuning. Is this just normal practice, or is there something likely wrong? This is a great question. Okay, so it could be your tuner, but I run, and I'm just going to give you some personal experience here. Everybody else who has this problem or had this problem or is curious about this, please put this in the comments and help Scott out. What my personal experience has been is that when the guitar is not properly intonated or the setup is off somehow, like the nut is too high or the saddles are too high or the intonation is way off, that when you go to tune your guitar, it's really hard to hold it on the pitch because the guitar is not set up properly. Because mathematically it can't put it in the right spot because something else is off. It's like the whole thing is an equation and you've moved a variable and now you can't put it where you want to put it and it drifts around a bunch. This has been my experience when the guitar is not intonated properly. But don't jump straight to your intonation. Go through your setup from the very beginning all the way through the end like you normally would, and do it in the proper steps and see if it happens again. If it happens again after you've totally checked your whole setup, then maybe see if you can figure out another tuner, or save yourself the trouble and just like check another tuner app or something and see if it does it still. But I'm guessing that you've got a guitar setup problem. Run through the process, you'll probably be okay. I don't remember what video this was on, but this was talking about nitrocellulose versus lacquer, urethane. This was pretty recently actually. Nitrocellulose is not as hard of a finish as the new polymer finishes. Also, nitrocellulose can move with the wood to a point, and the polymers don't allow as much movement. That's only after cure. Real difference that I have found. Okay, so people want to say that nitrocellulose moves more, so it's like totally tone, bro, like vibrations and resonance and whatnot. Here's the thing, he's right. Nitrocellulose is not as hard of a finish to begin with as a urethane is. It does get hard, hard enough to crack. But that's not the problem, or the difference gets totally, let's just say this. What goes under the nitrocellulose finish is probably more important to the argument of tone than anything else. And basically, everybody's using the same sealer now. And so you could put whatever you want on top, but when the same sealer and the same grain fill, pore filling, is underneath, it doesn't matter anymore. Because that's underneath. Once that's underneath, doesn't matter what you put on top, how thin it is, how much it moves, doesn't matter because that sealer is underneath there. And it kind of negates the whole thing. So if you want a nitrocellulose finish in 2023, you're going for feel and you're going for look. The tone doesn't change. Even if you could make the excuse 50 years ago that it did, which I don't think you can, not anymore. Not anymore. Just because of process, because of what we're using in 2023. Dylan, I love your channel, but stop unfolding your knife blade while you're talking. Super distracting for us ghetto folks. Yeah, I can't help where you're from or what triggers you. You should know by now that I'm going to play with knives because it's what I do. New Hogue Deca with Ultim scales, which is really sweet. Magna cut blade. Really like this knife. I'm a nail biter, and so a lot of times I'll have something fidgeting in my hands because I'm really trying to stop biting my nails. I mean, let's not kid ourselves. I probably will never stop biting my nails, but I use something in my hands all the time to do that with. So yeah, you're always going to see kind of something in my hands, and typically it's going to be a pocket knife. And I'll accept the risk. I'll accept the risk of maybe I'll cut myself. I have before. Poked myself with a kitchen knife right here the other day. All right, Bob Zed. Can you build a good $400 boutique guitar? Probably not. Can Cort or Thomann or whoever make a good guitar for $400? Absolutely. Economics of scale, optimization of the process, etc., etc. A $2 screw in the US costs just as much in China? Really? Based on no research, we should just trust you? And labor costs of this are the same everywhere? Sorry, can't finish watching this crap. A, I bet you did finish watching this crap. And B, so I do have pretty good sources in the guitar parts supplier arena. If you're new to the channel, you may not know that, but we do talk about this fairly regularly. That I do have, I can tell you. I can't tell you because we have, I can't just give away information that I'm not allowed to give away. But I will say that what I do know is Cort is, so let's parse this out. Cort and Thomann are two completely different things. Thomann is made in China, and most of Cort stuff is made in Indonesia. And that seems like splitting hairs, but it's not. That's a big difference. The ethical, as far as wood, if we just talk about wood sourcing, Harley Benton's, Cort, maybe a little more. Cort's okay when we talk about the ethical sourcing of just wood. As far as the $2 screw thing and scalability, you're right. So, but here's the problem. That a $2 screw in the United States doesn't become a tenth of a penny in China, which is what it would need to be to make a $200 guitar. I know that it's hard for people to understand, but if you do some research, not just in guitar building, if you do some research in economics in general, and understand, without making this political, the economic systems of various and certain particular countries in the world, you will start to understand how this works. And the government subsidization of labor and products in particular economic structures makes it such that a $200 or a $400 guitar can be done at the expense of fill in the blank. Do you want to buy that? It's just a choice, really. Good video. Those shorts, though. Oh, my 511 tactical shorts that I really, really like and I wear in the summertime. And I am a cyclist, so I personally don't have any kind of self-esteem issues with my legs, and I have really good tattoos. So I can't really be responsible for the insecurities of other people about their legs, which is really what that projection is. I will leave a link to the 511 tactical shorts that I wear, since you're so interested, in the description of this video, because we actually do have an affiliate program with 511, thanks to 511 recently. I haven't really talked about that, because we've been wearing and using their stuff a bunch, and yeah, pretty cool. I'll leave a link below. Let's see. Mike H says, have ever considered doing a review of a product from Emerald Guitars? I'm a huge carbon fiber fan, obviously, because I have a bunch of them, like 4 of them. I would love to do a review of an Emerald guitar. The problem is that this channel is 100% viewer supported. So patreon.com/DylanTalksTone and the YouTube members down there are 100% viewer supported. And there's a couple problems. One is I would have to have Emerald send me a guitar. Manufacturers don't typically send me a guitar. Most of this stuff I've purchased. I guess Close sent me a couple. But I most of the time I have to purchase instruments. When that happens, I have to make sure that it's something that the viewers want to see. And what's interesting about it is, even though carbon fiber guitars are kind of the cutting edge thing, those videos never really do that well on the channel, and people don't really like to watch anything about carbon fiber stuff. So it doesn't make it cost effective for me to usually purchase carbon fiber guitars. The ones that I've purchased are because I really, really wanted them myself, and so they're my personal guitars now. I bought them. So if Emerald were to send me a guitar to review, I would love to review it, but I can't afford to buy it because I'm using viewer-supported funds from Patreon to do it, and viewers don't really like to see it. So it's an interesting juxtaposition that I'm in there, but I would love to do it, but we just can't afford it. Because everybody wants to see telly stuff, and everybody wants to see pickup kind of stuff, and that's what we're kind of good at and what we do around here. So that's why the carbon fiber stuff is kind of a side thing for us, even though for me personally, it's really super interesting. His name is Rainy Day, and his comment is like really negative. So should we read it in like Eeyore voice, like, the strap pickup with the plate? Should we read it like that? No, it's okay. The strap pickup with the plate, because we put a plate on the bottom with strap pickup, sounded more tinny. That's about it. Which is interesting because everybody else said exactly the opposite, that it compressed it more, which is the opposite of tinny. So that's interesting that you've got different ears there. Those are some soulless sounding pickups. Well, they're not living beings. They do not have a life force. I would not give them a soul. We do not. The object itself, this is an interesting thing. You're using this as some derogatory comment about my pickups, but I don't view it that way ever. The instrument is always without a soul, in my opinion. I know a lot of people like to put magical mojo BS into their guitars and stuff, but I don't do that. It's your job to do that. So maybe my playing that day was soulless, which I would 100% admit to, because, you have those days. But the pickups themselves aren't responsible for that. You as a player, and this is where I really want to start going with our channel too, I'm really, really concentrating on this a lot, it is your responsibility to put the soul into the instrument. I will make sure you sound good, but if with my pickups and with what I do, I will make sure of that. And I know I can do that. So if you buy our pickups, I can give you a tool to do that. But the pickup doesn't have the soul. You do. You have to put it into the guitar. That's your job. And so maybe that day I was not so soulful. But I'm not a soulful player anyway. Punk rock all the way. All right, the Keith Bruce. A higher voltage will get darker sooner than a lower voltage. Please stop making videos. He's talking about the voltage rating on a capacitor. So we'll take this as two things because I assume that he means this in two completely different sentences. The voltage rating on a capacitor has nothing to do with the tone. It will not, within reason now, so if you put like a 400 volt cap, like a big amp cap, in your guitar, that won't affect the tone. The capacitor value is what affects the tone. The tolerance of the capacitor value also affects the tone because you want it to be within a certain range, because if it's 30% tolerance, then you could be in way some other value, and that will obviously, that's the value of the capacitor moving or being wrong, and that can affect the tone. So but the higher voltage, all that really is an ability for the thing to have a voltage go through it without blowing up. Now if you were to put like a huge capacitor like this big and wire it into your guitar, maybe. But when you think about 200, usually people use like a 200 volt, I think that's what ours are, 100 volt or 200 volt capacitor. 400 is in an amp usually, or 800. Those are fine. That won't affect the tone at all whatsoever. Now, as far as please stop making videos, no. No. I like making videos. If people stopped watching these videos, I'd still make them. I really enjoy shooting videos. I really do. That's why we have our whole other channel about our lifestyle stuff. And actually, Leslie's been working on the Dylan and Leslie website. I'll leave a link to that below because we've got some other personal stuff that we're kind of sharing outside of the guitar thing. Now, I really like making videos. I really do. I edited video and worked on videos since I was a little kid when we were shooting on tape because my dad's a producer. So I really, really, really like it. I've been in video in my entire life. Video and music my entire life since I was a little kid. Growing up in control rooms, no, I won't stop making videos. Well, I'm going to say that volume 1 of whatever we're going to call this, I don't know what this is going to be, comments from the Peanut Gallery, I'm not really sure, whatever we call it, was a success. I really enjoyed making this video. I like just hanging out with you. This gives you a little piece of what we do on Tuesdays during the podcast. Is kind of a version of it. And then, of course, we have the live stream on Thursday night that we hang out with Leslie, and we directly speak with you through the live stream, which is really fun. And then we also have some monthly hangouts with Patreon where we do it actually live in Zoom. So I really like this idea of communicating with as many of you as possible in as many ways as possible. It's really, really fun. We are all human beings. We all do make comments in the comment section. The comment section is not just ones and zeros, so I do realize that. So I appreciate all of you who are constructive with your comments and have real questions. And for those of you that intend to be idiots, I see you as a human being too, and I'm glad you're here. And we may make fun a little bit sometimes, or we may point out some pretty obvious dumbassery, but in the end, if we were all here having a beer right now, we'd be talking about guitar stuff, and I appreciate you being there as well. So thank you so much for everybody that does this stuff, who supports the channel. Please like and subscribe. Please check out Patreon. We're going to be shooting, I think tomorrow morning, I'm going to shoot a Patreon video before I go into my root canal. Or maybe I will shoot one after I get my root canal done. That might be kind of fun too. Anyway, yeah, I will. Yes. After my root canal tomorrow, I will make a Patreon video. We'll see how that goes. How much drool there is, I'm not really sure. Anyway, thanks for hanging out. We'll see you tomorrow.